Thank you for joining my talk. And I'm gonna be talk about how monkeys predict the future in the real time. It's not about just a one discrete choice, but it's about real time prediction about the future trajectory. So these are the types of experiments that monkeys perform at the research laboratory. This is not only limited to the monkeys, but also rats or mice. They do this kind of very discrete task. So the upper panel in here, you can see the very typical random dot motion task. So to briefly explain what monkey does in the laboratory for thousands of trial is that monkeys start to fixate and they get the target and there's a randomly moving dot appears. So the coherence of the dot is different at each trial. What you have to make a decision is like whether you're gonna make a right or left, depending on whether the coherence of a coherent dot is moving towards the right or left. The decision is made by a cloud, and monkeys are totally fixing the chair fixing the chair. So this is the other types of tasks that monkeys are usually doing in the laboratory. There's an 8 target appears. The target is indicated by the red color or whatever color it is. And once the center dot color is changing to like a transparent, they have to move their fingers or arms or joystick into the target position as soon as possible. The problem of this types of laboratory task is that monkeys get overtrained with a large number of trials, and basically is for the statistical power, given usually they have been recording only a single neuron at a day. As you can see, this is very unnaturalistic. You cannot see this kind of thing that monkey are doing. Task is performed by monkey in the nature. Like they are not doing random dot motion task. And they are given, all the cues are given by external cues, which is not totally related with any internal motivation. And often I call it experimenters built around the math because like often there's a cases where task like, oh, I have a mathematical model and I have to make tasks to explain the mathematical model. And I think these are the problematic while we study the naturalistic behavior of the monkey or like a more comprehensive understanding of the brain. Instead, let's see what monkey does solve in the every day in the nature. This is a video clip I have. So if you can see here, the monkey is chasing squirrel, which is moving very fast. It's very dynamic. So he has to accumulate the information of the sensory, but also he has to move actively and plan action in dynamical sense. So there are 2 methods to solve the pursuit problem. Okay, so you can just sit there, wait until squirrel gets tired and exhausted, or you can pursue until he gets exhausted. The other solution that you can think about how monkey can do is actively predict the trajectory of squirrel and plan own action according to that prediction. These are the problems that animals solve at the nature, and those are the focus of my studies, which is shown in this talk. Then this is the way how we brought the naturalistic pursuit in the laboratory. So this is, you can see in here, on the left, monkey is controlling joystick to control the yellow circle appearing at the monitor. And the goal of the monkey is to capture the square prey, which gives him the water reward. The color of the prey indicates a different amount of water that he can get when he captures the prey. So this is the design of the task I had for, I thought I was bringing some kind of naturalistic pursuit into the laboratory. So affectionately, we call this as a Pac-Man experiment, which is like very similar to Pac-Man, except there is no ghost and there's no coins, but they are pursuing continuously moving target. So in here, what monkey does is monkey controls the joystick that he can control the movement of the yellow circle, which we call as a self-avatar. He encounters a lot of prey, which has different color. Each different color indicates the amount of reward that he can get when he captures it. But it has also different speed. So small reward corresponds to slower speed, whereas the higher reward corresponds to faster speed. So he had to make an active choice. Occasionally, they have also the predator cases, which is also indicated by color. And you can see that they also have a different speed, but it's way slower. One thing that you have to recognize or remember to understand my model and everything is that monkey speed is always faster than the prey or predator. So, if they don't want to or they don't need to, they don't have to predict the future because they can just follow it and capture it. So this is a typical trajectory that monkey generates at each given trial. So this is the starting point of each agent, and this is like a trajectory that monkeys, actually this one, monkeys generating trajectory over a couple of seconds. And often there's a predator path. Now you can see there's no stereotypical movement. It's not discretized. It's very continuous, and it's very self-motivated. In fact, they do a couple of 100 trials every day. It's very fun. And when we chair the monkey into the chair, we can definitely feel that they are very eager to do this task. Okay, now the critical part of my task is it's very interactive. So each time, each refresh rate of the monitor, we update the position of the prey. That means every 60 hertz, the monkey sees new position of the prey. How is it determined? Now, there's a two-factor that prey can move. Prey can move away from the subject. So you can think of that as like having higher cost at the position of the prey, which is indicated as a red color of the z-axis. And that is one force driving the prey movement. And the other force that is driving the prey movement is trying to secure degree of freedom for the next upcoming movement. So in that case, always the center has the higher degree of freedom for the next movement because he can go anywhere else. Whereas if he got caught at the corner, that means he has limited degree of freedom for next movement. So if you can see here that the cost for next movement is very low at the center point. But exactly it's not symmetric because like you can see the influence of the subject at the overall global structure so that the next optimal movement will be here. This is very important because like any previous laboratory task did not have this kind of interactiveness at each given trial. So once the choice is made, it's very open loop. You don't have to think about upcoming movement. You don't have to think about whether it's interacting with me or not. But we are imposing them to be more naturalistic. That is the key part of my paper. Okay, now we provided naturalistic environment. Okay, now we have to think about what is the possible mental process. Let's see, this is the subject position at current time point. And this is the prey position at current time point as well. So the dumbest idea that you can think about is like, okay, I'm moving joystick towards the current position of the prey. In here, you can see the yellow arrow. But because of the inherited limitation, either in sensory process or action process, he can only point the joystick towards a path. It's inevitable, unavailable for them to push joystick towards the current position. So that is indicated by the purple path. But the alternative algorithm or mental process that monkey can do is like, they can predict the upcoming position of the prey and make a smart movement towards that position. In this case, you can see the red arrow, which is indicated as a future prey, future position of the prey. So we simply thought these three cases are possible movement the monkey can do at every given time point. And we came up with some very simple computational model with the two free parameters. So this is kind of complicated, but always all you have to remember at the last moment is the tau and kappa, which tau is the degree of predicting future, and kappa is the degree of force the monkey is inserting towards the predicted position. Let's go into the equation then. So subject position at time t plus 1 is determined by some kind of scaled by kappa and determined by the function inside the bracket. So the function inside the bracket is some function with respect to the current position of the subject, which is subject position at time t over here, subscript, plus some physical inertia that joystick always have. So if we exclude this term, if you see my paper, the model fit is getting worse. So this seems very critical component. But the kappa in here, again, go to the degree of force putting towards the predicted position, that how strong I make a movement towards certain position. Now let's decompose this function with respect to the subject position t. This is just expected as prey position at time t plus 1 minus subject position at t. This is essentially the vector towards some prey position at time t plus 1. But you can easily see that they don't know what is a prey position at time t plus 1. So there can be three cases where, okay, actually future position is here, here, or here. Then, now this is the last line of equation is indicating how they make prediction about their future position at time t plus 1. So this is based on the position of the prey at the time point t, which is current time point, plus some time derivative of the prey position information. So it can be time derivative of prey position, first derivative, which means velocity, which is indicated by this vector, or it can be second derivative of the prey position at current point, which means the acceleration. And all those method is scaled by tau, which we think how much prediction that monkey is making at each given time. So if the tau is large, that means they are imagining the future position of prey way far over here, and they are aiming towards that position. And if tau is very, very, very small, you can just think that they are making a very small amount of future prediction. So in gist, we come up with a very, very simple parsimonious model that has two free parameters. That is predicting the subject position at time t plus 1. Is the model doing good? All we can do is like how good the model is compared to the actual trajectory of the monkey. Okay, now I brought two example trajectory, which has like pretty drastic turn, if you can see here. So you can see the start point and end point over here. The black solid line is indicating actual trajectory of subject. It starts from here, it moves like this. Now also the dotted line, black line, is indicating the prey. So it starts here and is moving toward here. So actual outcome of the subject was capturing the prey and get the water reward. Now let's start from the gray one first. So now assuming that monkey is moving joystick towards a predicted position, but actually the prediction is 0. So that means he's only pointing the current position of the prey. You can see a huge deviation from the actual trajectory of the monkey. Of course, it finally captures the prey, but actually it's like deviating trajectory is very salient. But if you have the positive prediction, which is positive tau, now the monkey's trajectory is converging into the actual trajectory of the subject. This is another trajectory. This kind of model is really hard when they make really drastic turns. But also the notation is same. The pink line is pretty doing nice capturing the trajectory of the monkey, whereas a 0 prediction is pretty bad. I didn't even plot the negative prediction because it's going way far around here or around here. So I don't even have to plot the negative prediction. But these two trajectory definitely indicates, yeah, actually monkeys are making future predictions. This is the population population result from the one monkey, but you can see all monkeys show pretty much similar pattern across the different monkeys over all trajectories. So this is about 15,000 trajectories, which is pretty a lot. In here, in the parameter space, the x-axis means that whether they are pushing towards the monkey or steering joystick away from the predicted position of the prey. The y-axis in here indicates how much they predict the future, meaning that positive, they are predicting way much future prediction, predicting future a lot. Negative means that they are pointing their joystick toward the past position. And z-axis indicates how good the fitting result is compared to the actual data. So you can see in here that there's a very small location or the position where in the parameter space that gives very, very, very good fit. And this is obviously making future prediction and pushing joystick toward that position, confirming that in population-wise or across trials, actually they are making future prediction, which are indicated in here with a more emphasized line. So this is just a result of like another numerical summary done because of the reviewer was asking. So we can just simply ask, yeah, actually you said that actually monkeys are making the prediction based on the first derivative or second derivative of the physics. But actually they can do different algorithm. They actually understand the dynamics of the game, and then they can make the prediction. So that is indicated as a veridical prediction, means they are perfectly understanding the dynamics of the game. Otherwise, they can do some heuristics. Yeah, they understand actually the preys are usually going toward the center because the cost of moving is lowest at the center. That's what we call as a cost control prediction. And these results are both, actually, except the monkey C. K and H, monkey is giving very consistent result, saying that actually they are making predictions based on the approximating the physics of the prey. Of course, not every trajectory is best fit with the physics. Often they behave more optimal compared predicting the vertical prediction. But actually, what you can find is that monkeys predict futures based on approximating the physics information of the prey. Okay, so far, I hope you were convinced by the result of the behavior model fitting, saying that we formalized how monkeys make prediction at real time, which is given by model with a two free parameter, which is very parsimonious. Now we want to find out whether is there a neural signature that is indicating actually they are predicting the future. So we implemented huge chronic array at the monkey. This is a 3D reconstruction of our surgery, which we have 32 channel microarray, 10 of them in different brain areas. For this paper, we are mainly analyzing ABC in here, which is dorsal anterior cingulate cortex. The reason we selected dorsal anterior cingulate cortex is, as you see a lot of review papers, it is known as the hub of the motor system and the economic decision-making systems. These are the medial views. These are the coronal views. We pointed in area 24, and we recorded about 96 channels simultaneously in the ACC. So also soon there will be another paper coming out that we are comparing the ACC and PMD by the dimensional reduction techniques. But I hope that I can do another webinar for that one later on. To analyze the neural data, we adopted generalized linear model, which is, you have to be cautious about generally, it's different from general linear model. So this is idea from Surya Ganguly's paper at 2017 with Lisa Giacomo. And it's essentially now you can decompose the one time point information into multiple variables. For example, the location xy can be one variable, direction can be the other variable, which is like 0 to 2 pi. Speed of the agent can be another variable. So now for all that variable, you construct the filters and you converge it and do some weighted sum of that to get one scalar value representing that state information. Now that summed input goes through to nonlinearity, is passed through the nonlinearity to guarantee that you don't get the negative number. For my purpose, I choose exponential function. Then it gives, then that scalar value is plugged into the Poisson spike generator. So it's Poisson spike generator. Now I give the rate information. Now they give probability of getting particular number of spikes given the rate information. And they try to get maximize sample from the maximized point. And you get the number of spike at given time point. So how I fit the model is that I fit this filter and generate the spike and compare the computed the maximum likelihood between the model data and the actual data. So that was how I fit the model of the neural data. And these are the results that I get. This is a model result, but actually, if you overlay the position information, this neurons are almost perfectly overlapping with the actual data. So x-axis is the screen position, y-axis is also screen y dimension, and z-axis is the firing rate, which is 2 hertz to 10 hertz. Usually the DACC has very low firing rate. So they have like very specific filter for the prey. Unlike the place cell or the grid cell, it's not a parametric distribution. So you can see in here, there's multiple modes occurring here, or looks like a border, but it's not parametric. In my paper, I was briefly mentioning that I cannot find a significant number of parametric cells, and that's fine, but still it's very significant. So this was tested by the cross-validation, tenfold cross-validation, and it's avoiding overfitting. So the speed of prey is also well described by the model, and also direction of the prey. This is all consistent not only the prey, but also for the other agent. But that data was not shown in this paper. The subsequent paper, which is under review, is telling about the subject and the predator position as well. Okay, now about more than 70% of the neurons are encoding some information of the task. That's kind of very high number. So, but this is surprisingly about 60% of neurons are encoding the information of the current position of prey. All these informations are prey information. So prey of speed is encoded very significantly. Direction is also very significant. Acceleration is significant. Angular acceleration, not significant, but maybe this negative effect doesn't mean that there's nothing. But one interesting thing we find is that if you remember my computational model of describing behavior, actually the best model that describes the monkey's behavior was the second derivative, which is the acceleration information. So if you have velocity information, acceleration information, monkey is using those two derivatives the most. And third derivative, which is we call as jerk, it's not very it's not very good predictor of the monkey's behavior. We can also find that in our neural data. Actually, the neurons are not encoding any third derivative information of the physics. The critical part is that now we said that monkeys are predicting the future position. Now let's ask whether they are actually predicting the future position in the neural data. So the critical part you have to remind is that all these analysis for the future position, especially the vertical future position, is done by fitting the data, fitting the residual information of the model. So what I mean is like, now I had already modeled on the previous slide saying that, okay, until current position, I fit the model. Then there's a residual variance that should be explained. And the future position is fit only against the residual variance. That means we are not killing the data with a massive amount of extra parameter that can cause overfit. So this is not overfitting at all. And we saw the tuning curve or tuning shape of the future position information and the current position information. And of course, it is expected some spatial tunings are very similar from the past information and the future information. And some spatial tuning are very different. So we got one numerical value from the geophysical science. The number is called as a SPAEFF value. We call it as a SPAEF value. And you can find that information from my paper. But what it essentially tells is if that value is number one, two maps are really, really, really similar. Almost they are overlapping. And if you are getting negative one, that means your maps are totally off phase, meaning that they are different, but they're systematically different. And zero means, oh, they are not related at all. They are spanning from the positive 0.6 to negative 0.7 or 8. You can clearly see here, if you see, pick the one that has a 0.5 similarity, there's some kind, you can see some overlapping over here. It's not, of course, perfect, but there's some overlapping. It's also here. Some the fields are overlapping, but it's not perfect, and it's close to 0.2 because like there's extra modal appearing up here. And you can see here, this is pretty off. This is blue in here, whereas these cells are very positive over here. This is very positive over here, whereas this cell is negative, showing that actually the metric that we got from the geophysics is working correctly and predicting that some spatial tuning are overlapping and some spatial tuning between the current and the future position is not overlapping. In summary, okay, so all you have to remember as a take-home is that two things. One, non-human prey images predict the future position of the prey. You came up with a simple generative model, explain the behavior better with the positive prediction about the future position of the prey. And how they predict the future is solely based on the physics information of the prey. So it's approximating the physics information. And their brain has some mental representation of the future. So we specifically pick the DACC information, and they encode the ingredient of the future prediction, which is velocity and acceleration, not the third and fourth and fifth and sixth. And it has also some information about the future position per se, not the per se, yes. So for the next couple of slides, I will briefly mention about the future direction I'm pointing with this naturalistic task. So I think the naturalistic task is like huge advantage of like explaining naturalistic behavior, of course. One of the naturalistic behavior is that if you imagine the cheetah following the gazelle, often they switch the target gazelle. That's happening very occasionally and very often. You can also think about like those things happens in my dynamical tasks. So this is collaboration with Dr. John Pearson at Duke University with his student. We are making even a generalized model for predicting the behavior of monkey when two prey are given. One thing to mention is that all the result from the previous the Nature Neuroscience paper is dealing with the one prey information. Now we are expanding it to two prey information. Just by adding one prey is giving tremendous complexity of the model explanation, but now we are getting some outcome from that. So this what you can ask is like, okay, when does monkey endogenously switch the latent goal or strategy, or just we can say target? So in here, subject is the blue, prey is green and orange, and the goal at each given time can be represented as a red ball. And if often go back and forth, at a certain point, he went towards this prey and then chased this prey. When does that happen? Can we see any neural signature when they are changing mind? Or even if we fit the data for the one prey and one predator, can we predict the neural difference between the pursuit and avoidance state? That's one of the future direction I have. The second direction is I'm also getting huge amount of data from the human ECOG patient. And I'm doing some kind of interspecies comparison. So this is with Dr. Alice Herman at the University of Minnesota and Dr. Iris Villaris at the University of Minnesota. And often we observe very interesting stuff that monkeys moving the joystick first and adaptively change the path when the predator approaches. Whereas human, it's very interesting that he waits until the predator comes into near him and then he avoids it so that he can occupy more future positions of future degree of freedom for upcoming choices. Can you detect those by the quantitative model? That was one of the direction. We also are training a reinforcement learning agent, artificial agent. It's like AlphaGo or AlphaStar kind of things, collaborating with the Intel Corporation deep learning team. And we are comparing, can we find the difference between artificial agent and the biological agent? Those are the future direction I have right now. And for this slide, I want to acknowledge the people who have been helping me out through this project. Of course, my advisor, Ben Hayden, and another PIs who are the co-author, Steve Piantadosi at the UC Berkeley, the future co-author, John Pearson, and all other people who have been helping me. And this is my funding source, NIH, and the Center for Neuroengineering at the University of Minnesota. And thank you so much. And please feel free to ask any questions.